Hey, what's going on? This is your boy Jamel J. Slim. I'm here in Denver, Colorado, here for work, and I just got finished watching the Bobby Brown story, the second part. I watched the first part last night, and I watched the second part. And then, like I said in my previous videos, if something comes on my heart and spirit to talk about that I'm inspired by, I want to share it and I want to put it out there. And so today, or this morning, I want to talk about the Bobby Brown story and my thoughts on it and my opinion on it. So I want to give two disclaimers before I proceed. First, I might give away some spoilers, so if you haven't watched it yet, stop this video and go and watch both parts. Second, if you haven't watched the New Edition story, then I suggest you watch that first before you watch the Bobby Brown story, because it's called the Bobby Brown story. So it's about Bobby Brown, right? So those are two disclaimers I wanted to give before I give my opinion. Now, first, I just want to say, first of all, I liked the movie. I thought it was good. I thought, I know they're probably gonna have haters out there. They're probably gonna have different opinions about the movie, but I personally thought it was pretty good for overall. I mean, every movie. I mean, at the end of the day, it's BET, so you're gonna expect some BS, which I'll get into. But I just want to talk about like the good and bad, what I liked about it, what I didn't like about it. So I'm gonna start what I did like about the movie. I thought, first of all, me personally, I thought the guy Woody, the great, I think his name is, I forgot his last name, but I thought Woody was good. I thought he did a good job playing Bobby Brown. Obviously, you could tell that Bobby Brown was there, that Bobby Brown basically tutored him and gave him direction of how he wanted his story to be told. You can tell. I personally thought he did a decent job. He did a very good job, and as good as he's gonna get. I mean, at the end of the day, he's not Bobby Brown. He's portraying Bobby Brown. So you can't expect him to be Bobby Brown. He's portraying the character, right? I thought Mekhi Phifer, I think, yeah, playing his brother was good. I mean, his brother's not. It's hard to judge because we didn't never see him in the public light. I mean, so. I mean, Mekhi is, he is, and it was funny because certain lines he was saying, if people seen Paid in Full, he was saying certain lines, and it was like, I know the part when he was when him and Bobby were in the kitchen, and and Bobby basically fired him, and certain words when he was saying, it was like you thought he was playing and Paid in Full, But I thought he did pretty good. The girl that played Whitney, I forgot her name, but I'm just swinging it off the head. I'm just swinging it. So I know she played in a lot of different things. The Game, and recently she was in Luke Cage. I thought she did a pretty good job. The portrayal of Whitney in this movie, I thought was decent. I thought it was pretty good. Because at the end of the day, it was the Bobby Brown story. So I think Whitney has had enough stuff done on her, and what I liked about it the most was that they didn't portray her as Whitney Houston, the superstar. They portrayed her as Whitney Houston, the wife of Bobby Brown, and I thought that was a good thing to do. I thought she did a pretty good job. Who else? Yeah, so those are the standout ones that I thought did pretty good. Another thing I liked about it, And then what this movie really reminds you is that Bobby was a bad boy back in the day. Like, Bobby did his thing back in the day. He had some hits, and people forget. And I think this movie's gonna remind people that this man had some hits, man. He had some songs. People don't realize that "Don't Be Cruel" album. That man toured for that album. He toured on that album for 3 years. Like, that's unheard of. Like, that's some Michael Jackson stuff right there. Like, like, people don't realize how big that album was and how bad, how good he was. And I thought the music was done well. What I liked about it was that Woody didn't lip sync. He didn't lip sync. It was his own voice. He portrayed it, Bobby Brown. What I liked about it, I liked when they redid the Prerogative video, and it was every step, every little step, no pun intended, that from that Prerogative video. And I thought it was nice. I thought it was dope. I thought it was well done, and it sounded real, and it wasn't lip synced, and I liked that. And just overall, and that's why I was gonna make a video after the first part, but I said let me watch the second part first and then make one video. And the whole movie, and then, you know, I read Bobby Brown's book, and if you read Bobby Brown's book, he's pretty much talking, this is just basically a biopic, basically from his book, you know, a visual version of his book. He didn't, of course, his book is going to have more detail because it's a book. So at the end of the day, this is basically like a visual of his book. But I thought at the end of the day, his story is very interesting. And this guy came from, like, he could be dead right now, and all the loss that he had in his life, and he's still around, he's still moving, and he's still rocking and rolling to this day, and all the stuff he overcame, and it was just cool. It was just cool to see that, and I thought it was deeper than the music. It wasn't just about the music. I enjoyed that. Like I said before, it was about Bobby, and I liked the second part more than I liked the first part. The first part was okay, but I think the second part, it was redemption. It showed the relationship between him and his current wife Alicia, which was cool to see her stick around for him and help him out, and it was cool. And like I said, overall, man, the movie, those are the good things, you know. Now, the main thing that I wanted to talk about, that probably people, now, if you read his book, now there was a part in there, the Janet Jackson thing. Now, that's one thing I didn't like about the movie, and I didn't understand about it, right? Now, I know some people were saying, like, well, why is he even bringing up Janet? Like, why did he even bring up Janet? You know, if you read his book, in his book, he revealed that him and Janet Jackson had a relationship that probably no one knew about until he said something about it. And in the book, he was saying that basically that Janet and him, he wanted to get with Janet. Janet was basically like, nah. Basically, Papa Joe Jackson didn't want her to be with a black guy, a dark-skinned black guy, which is understandable because you see most of the people in their family and the brothers, most of their wives are white. You see the kids are mixed, so that's not surprising, right? So Bobby was like, basically he kicked out the hotel, basically butt naked, and threw her clothes out. Now in the movie, if y'all seen the movie, they were sitting there, they were laying there in the bed, and they were going back and forth, and he was like, why don't you want to be with me, blah blah blah, and she's like, you're not going to talk to me, and all of a sudden it went to commercial. It just cut the commercial. And I'm like, huh? And then during the commercial, you see that they're promoting Janet Jackson to be on the Black Girls Rock show that comes on this Sunday. Now I'm like, come on, that's not a coincidence. You're gonna put this scene and then promote her and say she's getting some kind of lifetime achievement award or something like that. I'm like, come on now. Then I'm like, okay. And then it came back and it just went to the next scene where basically that's when he met Whitney at the Soul Train Awards back in 1989. And I'm like, there was no closure to that relationship. So my thing is like, if you're not gonna go all the way, if you're not gonna promote it, then okay, let me say this. I'm sorry. Let me back up. So Charlemagne posted something where he said, "What happened? What happened, BET? Why didn't you show the scene? You know, why didn't you show the scene when he got kicked out, when she got kicked out the hotel, butt naked? Why? And then Bobby Brown tweeted him back and said it said, shake my head. It was basically saying it's a last minute decision in the boardroom. So they decided at the last minute that they were going to cut that scene out. So there's only two things that I could come up with. One is that since this Bobby Brown story is Tuesday and Wednesday, and the Black Girls Rock is Sunday, and they're going to give Janet an award. See, remember, Black Girls Rock is for the young black women out there, and they want to portray Janet as a role model. So you don't want to like a 16, 17-year-old somehow sees the Bobby Brown story on BET on Tuesday and Wednesday, or Tuesday, and sees Janet Jackson getting kicked out the room butt naked with her clothes, and then sees her on you know, Black Girl Rock, you know, getting a award. I guess they didn't want to overshadow that. That's one reason. Second reason why they did it, I don't know if Janet people reached out to BET and was like, hey man, you need to, you know, we don't want to portray Janet like that. Now, if number two is true, why not just delete the scene? That's what I had a problem with. It was like, if you're not going to go all the way, they should have just deleted the scene. And even he mentioned her in the movie, they didn't have to go all the way with the scene. You know, all of a sudden they in the bed talking, they arguing, and then cuts to the commercial, and then where he meets Whitney. What they should have did, if they were going to edit it, they should have edited it to the point where it brought closure to that scene, and then move on. Now, another thing me and my wife were talking about earlier was that maybe it was time constraint. Maybe it was time constraint. Well, if it was time constraint, they could have edited it better and said, okay, let's edit it where we take out like a couple, like 2 or 3 minutes where we fast forward a little bit to the point where the relationship closes and you move on to the next thing. That's what I had a problem with. And I just thought that was you know, that was my biggest problem about the movie. But at the end of the day, it's BET. I don't really have a lot of negative to really say other than that about the movie, because going into it, I already knew the story. I thought it was well done. I don't really have any really like bad things to say about the acting. I know I was reading something earlier and they were saying, well, they wasn't really like bringing up New Edition, and it's a Bobby Brown story. So it's the continuation, it's the spin-off. So the producers are assuming that everybody that watched the Bobby Brown story seen the New Edition. That's why I said you have to see the New Edition story to understand the Bobby Brown, because it's not about New Edition. It's about Bobby Brown. So I thought they did, at the end of the day, you know, stars, if you give me 5 stars, I give the movie about a 3.5. 3.5. I'll give it a 3.5, because at the end of the day, it's BET. It's only so much you can expect from BET. I know me and my wife were talking earlier. She was saying that the scene when they was in the trailer, the Ghostbusters, when they were writing the Ghostbusters song, and that looked kind of corny. And that did look kind of corny. you know. But at the end of the day, it's BET, so it's gonna look kind of corny. It's gonna look kind of phony, you know. So at the end of the day, man, I thought it was dope. I thought it was dope, and you know, I'm saying, like, I'm assuming if you watch this, yeah, I mean, if you looked at this whole video, then you'll know. I mean, you have watched the movie already, so I'm not gonna say I recommend taking the time to watch the movie, but yeah, that's my thoughts on the Bobby Brown story, man. And big up to Bobby Brown, and he's doing his thing right now, and he's a prime example of, you know, people that's, you know, going. Thankfully, I never been in that place where I've been on drugs or alcoholic or anything like that. But if someone is in that place, they can look at Bobby Brown as a role model and say, hey, this man went through all this and he came out of it, you know, and he's doing well right now, and it's possible. And I think that's what separate him and Whitney, was that Bobby said, hey, this is what's going on. Like, he was honest about his problems and his addictions. I think Whitney never came out and really was honest with herself about her problems. I really believe that. I really, really believe that. I really think that's why Bobby is still alive to this day, because he was honest and he came out and said, hey, this is what's wrong and I'm gonna fix it. So big up to him. And that's all I got, man. That's all I got. Comments, of course, please. As I build this page and as I make more videos, I hope that people subscribe. I hope people comment. And hopefully, you know, I'm saying something you enjoy. And the more videos I make, the more, you know, crisp it'll be. So thank you for listening and looking, and hopefully I'll see you guys soon. Deuces.